That's exactly it. I mean, I think that remember that there's 4 planks in our revenue equation, right? So there's free, right, which is driven by your population and visitors. There's fee, which is driven by your households and small businesses. Okay, there's wholesale, which is yet to be determined, and then there's municipal applications. Those are all 4 planks, okay? So if you're weak on households, okay, that means you've got to offset that with some type of municipal application, right? And so usually you have that conversation with me, and then I'll work through it. How many cop cars do you have? How many, I can usually work the number out fairly quickly.
But you would expect a person responding to your RFP would be able to propose, here's how we would handle food service, advertising or whatever. Here's how we would have upper tiers at different cities and revenue from that. Here's how we would,
Yep, you're right.
But if you don't respond, the municipality has no way of knowing what to think.
Yeah, I mean, here's another thing. It's important for you to know. Municipal Wi-Fi the agreements are typically non-exclusive in unlicensed spectrum. So the RFP really is there to facilitate the city's ability to buy services on a monthly basis. That's the point. So if in the RFP it specifically says that there's no application drag or no anchor tenancy discussed, there's no point in me countering. You've essentially, you're opening gambit. What's interesting is, and I do a lot of contracts and negotiate a lot of deals, it's a negotiating ploy. I understand it. I understand that when you work with a company that has finite resource and money and investment dollars, we look at it and go, well, okay, right? You just have to manage that.
But see, what I find interesting about that is that really goes back to the importance of really understanding up front,
right,
before the RFP gets let, as far as how you're going to use this.
Right.
From a networking standpoint, how it's going to change the way that you work within your community. Because, I mean, obviously Nassau and Suffolk County have a lot of assets, from a municipal standpoint, and a lot of police cars.
Right.
So you would think that there would be a lot of services that would benefit.
Mm-hmm. Carl, over.
In cities where you're not going to, but cities are interested in using your assets, how do you feel about that? Are you supportive of that? For example, they want to get on your pole.
That is a seemingly very easy question, mired in the complexity of today's regulatory environment.
Oh, well put.
The short answer to your question is that we don't deploy on our own assets. AT&T Wi-Fi does not factor in our telco poles. The poles in the cities, typically in our home markets, are typically jointly owned by the utility and AT&T. Okay, it is extremely complicated from a regulatory perspective to use those assets. So AT&T Metro Wi-Fi, the business we're building, does not use those poles.
When you say from a regulatory perspective, you're talking about like state regulatory commissions?
Yeah, those towers are governed. I can't speak to this is one of those times, Mark, where's my lawyer when I need him? Normally they don't let me out of the house without him. But I mean, in this case, I will tell you, you're welcome to, I will tell you, everyone's welcome to pursue the opportunity to mount on those assets. And there are processes and procedures that you need to follow to go do that. Okay?
This was a leading question. So.
Yeah, I suspect this is going to come out of something in Georgia. Yes?
Yeah.
Yes, right. Mm-hmm.
So anyway.
Yeah, my advice to you would be to use the city's assets. That's what we all do. But, yeah.
We figured out a workaround, but
That's good.
this is something that's nationwide. And so I guess, what is the issue for me here is why has AT&T made the determination that the city or any entity have to have CLEC status with other pole, especially specifically pole asset owners have not set that apart?
Yeah,
Like, for example, Georgia Power.
yeah. I mean, it's one of those questions. I guess I would just have to defer. Sometimes it's just best to say, I don't have a good answer for you. If you'd like, I'd be happy to have my attorney send you a response. We saw the issue. We worked through it in our own house, and I wish you the best of luck. I mean, our advice was use the city assets, right? So, but that is the nature of the rule. It's no different for me than it is for you. Okay.
So a question for Actually, we'll go right over here first and come back. Yes. Yes, right.
Our city did an RFP that no response. I'm wondering, I'm right in Belknap backyard.
Yeah.
New Jersey, very heavily connected. If we put 3 towns together, do we have to do all the marketing ourselves? Do we have to go to developers, put in on this? What kind of density factors are we looking for? Help us out a little bit here so we know how to combat and what are about.
Yeah. So that's a great question. Are you Summit, New Jersey? Yeah, I think I've talked to you on the phone, or someone. I think I've talked to a representative of your city actually on the phone. Actually, the trick is you can string together cities, but that doesn't solve the density problem, because density is measured on households per square mile. So if you add more cities, you add more square miles. You have to manage your numerator denominator in that case. Usually, remember that today's marketplace. So how many service providers are there today in the market? Can anyone? Earthlink, MetroPhi, AT&T, Azlestar. So those are the big 4. There's probably some other starters, yeah? And how many cities want Wi-Fi? Hundreds?
Thousands.
Thousands? Okay, so my advice to you is that in any supply demand, so I have a son, he's 16, he thinks he's quite the quarterback, and I was talking to other parents who are trying to promote their child, and they actually mail tape, game tape, to colleges proactively. I was like, oh my God, how much does that cost, right? So to me, it's the supply demand, right? And so today, the way the market's evolved, at this point in the market, service providers, small, cities large, so you do need to market. You do need to proactively reach out. You do need to go ahead and engage. Sometimes it's that, by the way, this is the same argument we have inside the house. Build it and they will come. Put out an RFP and people will respond. Build a network and people will use it. Boy, we're not so sure about that, right? And so that's my advice to you would be to market.
So, Carl, I want to follow up on that for both you and Mark. So this woman's dilemma is not unique. There are many, many, many communities in this country and around the world that probably don't meet the density requirements that you're talking about.
Right.
I know you don't necessarily want to, give commercials for all your competitors, but what would you encourage her to do if their density requirements or whatever other factor don't, match what you need? So we'll start with you.
Hey, look, I mean, it's to me, and Mark talks about it, and I just think it's so important. Focus on what you need. Focus on what you want as a city, and then determine whether Wi-Fi is the best way to get it. Is Wi-Fi the fad of the day and you need to have it? I mean, do you need to go down and get a new Barney's pantsuit because that's what everyone's wearing, or you need to have the newest Prada bag? Is that the fad? Or is if your city wants to go ahead and stream patient data from ambulances back to hospitals on their way, what other technology can help you get there? Right? Wi-Fi is one of those technologies. One of our partners in the Midwest, IBM, system integrator, has done a great application for ambulance data, right? And what do they use for network? Cellular. Why is that? Because they want to cover the county, okay? Not this isolated point of a city, okay? So I would just say, to Mark's point, focus on the applications that you want, or focus on what your business need is.
Mark, how about you? You obviously do a lot of work with AT&T as a partner, but you have a lot of other partners as well. Is the idea that you would, whatever the requirement would be, find someone else?
Yeah, no, I think it's an interesting dilemma, and I think that in many of the cases where we see challenges as far as getting respondents for RFPs, it's because it isn't really clearly